What's good, Bills Mafia? Good evening. Good Monday night. Welcome to Buffalo Late Night. I'm a little, a little tired, man. I'll tell you. This heat did a number on me today. For some of you, I'm a mailman, and I'll tell you, it's the 90 degrees really hits you hard. But welcome. I am your host, Thomas DeLoss. You can find me at the Thomas DeLoss. Tonight we're going to be talking about what it means to be a Buffalo Bills fan, which is pretty easy to talk about, especially as one. Joining tonight on Buffalo Late Night is a guy most of you have heard about but never seen. It's my man behind the board, my brother, the producer of the show, my brother Ian Leary. Welcome, buddy.
How's it going, everybody? We're pulling double duty tonight, so it's going to be a little hectic. All right, Tom, let's get it kicked off.
But it's good. Yeah, so Buffalo Late Night. We are sponsored by both Travis Matthew and A Dentist for Kids. We're going to be doing some live reads later on that. But before I get too deep into it, if you're watching on any one of our platforms, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, or on Twitter, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That'll give you notifications when we're going live, what content we put out there. And if you watch on YouTube, go ahead and you can actually comment on the show. We'd love to hear what you think. Joining the conversation tonight about what you feel, being a Bills fan, what means the most to you, what games are most important, what players have impacted you the most. That's what we want to know. I'm a vessel really for all of this. And I just I go with the flow and let things happen. And one thing I'm trying to do more often for this show is I get very stressed out and tense while doing this. So I'm going to try to be more relaxed, try to go with the flow and ease into things a little bit better. Hopefully it'll make it a little smoother of a conversation and a little less stressful on my back. That being said, let's get deep into this. Where if you've watched this show before, we bounce. The first couple of things we do is we bounce around the NFL and talk about what's been happening. And one of the main things that we've heard recently, because we didn't have a show last week, happy 4th of July, is Baker Mayfield was in fact traded to the Panthers. Ian, what do you think?
Ooh, well, it's going to be really cool to see Baker Mayfield making an extra $500,000 on top of what he's making from the Panthers, to watch him hopefully start the Browns season off strong and give them their first L of the season. Kind of expanding on that, with the current situation that the Browns are in, I think that they're going to be punting for the season, probably going for the tank and trying to get a top 5 draft pick. That being said, you might see 2 seasons without, an actual quarterback. So, obviously, with Deshaun Watson's absence for at least one season, should be interesting to see how the Browns do. Obviously, getting rid of Baker Mayfield kind of eliminates any potential for making the playoffs for that team. But I think Baker has found, hopefully, a good home in Carolina. I can definitely see the Carolina fans kind of rallying around a guy who's been scorned by his previous team and is going to be on a warpath this coming season. And a lot of people say that, hey, you've got Baker Mayfield, a guy who isn't as talented as guys like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. But let's not forget, he was one play away from taking the Browns to the AFC Championship against the Bills back 2 years ago. So I'm interested to see where they go with Mayfield in Carolina.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I feel for Baker because,
everybody does. Yeah.
The one thing that I will say is, if this was happening with Josh, like Josh always puts his body on the line. And that's one thing that I think have made Bills fans gravitate towards him, with that blue collar mentality, is that, he does throw his body on the line. He does things to make sure that the team wins. He'll do anything for a win. It doesn't matter. His number one thing is to make sure that, at the end of the day, that W is in our column. And so it's sad for me to sit there and watch what happened to Baker Mayfield. I mean, he's got his attitude stuff. I mean, whatever. He has his moxie, and I appreciate it. But at that same time, that guy put his body on the line and played through a lot of injuries. And then, he did it because he thought he was the quarterback. And then at the end of the year, they kind of threw him to the side. And quite frankly, I I feel even worse because I don't like Jimmy Haslam. I think what Jimmy Haslam has done in Cleveland is, uh, I'm just not a fan. I don't think he's a great owner. I think some of the things he's done have kind of put him in the same respect as, you know, other really poor owners in the past.
Dan Snyder.
And so, right. Yeah. So it's disappointing to sit there and see that, but yeah, I'm excited. I hope Baker does succeed. I mean, obviously there's a lot going on. They've got Sam Darnold and they've got Matt Corral. I don't expect much out of Darnold, to be honest with you.
What are you talking about? That's a deep depth chart when it comes to quarterback. You guys get a lot of talent there.
And they've got PJ Walker, who at one point was, I think he was XFL or USFL. He was like an all-star over there. But needless to say, it is what it is. It'll be nice to see what he does. So Tyreek Hill, he was on his podcast and he was speaking about Tua, stating that the social media team posted a video of Tua throwing a bad ball because they wanted to disguise that Tua is better than what we think.
That's
I'll be honest with you, I don't believe it. I have never really. I don't think Tua is that good of a quarterback. I think he is underwhelming at best. My buddy Hansel, Uber Hansen, I do another podcast, the Process on Top podcast with him and Jeremy, and Hansel likes to basically tear Tua down limb by limb. And I tend to agree. I think Tua is a disappointing process, but I think it's weird. I feel like Tyreek is that kid who got in trouble in school, and then he's now trying really too hard to make it up to the teacher by saying way too much when he could just be quiet. So I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know, man. I think that Tyreek is kind of, I guarantee you he got into that first practice after being spoiled by Patrick Mahomes for 4 years and then had essentially lukewarm oatmeal as a quarterback, throw him just the worst balls in history. And I'm on the same boat with Hansel and you, mainly because I'm a Bills fan and the Dolphins can, they can go 0-16. I'll just be perfectly fine with that. But I don't think that Tua is going to be nearly as good as Tyreek Hill is making him out to be. It's a very interesting take to say that the social media team is disguising, a franchise quarterback as, like I said, lukewarm oatmeal. Also, I think that Tyreek's trying to just got to drum up viewership for his podcast by releasing hot takes that nobody believes.
Could be. I wouldn't surprise me. Moving on, Deshaun Watson's punishment, they're saying, could come down in the next 2 weeks. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on how things have either been handled or what the expectation is at this point?
I mean, it's 20, was it 26 women? Some inordinate amount of people have claimed or have alleged that Deshaun Watson have sexually assaulted them rather. I don't think the dude should be playing football anymore. I don't think that's a hot take or a wild opinion to have. Like, the dude's clearly a scumbag and shouldn't be in the NFL, but the NFL has kind of catered to scumbags for the last 25 years because they're good at playing football. Harkening back to Tyreek Hill, he had a massive issue when it came to domestic violence that reduced his draft stock. And they also settled a lot of those cases, man. I don't think it's going to be an unpopular opinion to say that the dude shouldn't play football anymore, but he definitely will because he's going to make a lot of money for the Browns franchise.
They're saying, I can't remember if it was Judy. No, it was Jason La Canfora. I was going to say Judy Batista. That's not right. Jason La Canfora said that he's heard. Now, problem with Jason La Canfora is, generally speaking, what he says, the exact opposite happens. He's not a very good insider. He's actually really bad.
He's bad over 10.
He might be a good writer, but he's not a good insider because, generally speaking, what he says is completely false. That being said, he has, and I'm hoping what he said this time is true, but whatever. He has said that he has heard that Deshaun Watson may never play for the Browns, never suit up for the Browns, which I'd be surprised if that is in fact the case. So my standpoint, and I've said this every single show so far, I think Deshaun Watson shouldn't play.
Yeah,
or if he
everybody.
does, the suspension should be so egregious that he just retires anyway, or whatever, just walks away from the game. I think they should stick it to the Browns. I think the Browns organization should have to still pay and still have that number on the books, and have to have that huge number on the salary cap. I think them only having to pay him $1 million this year is insulting. They just scooted around the whole issue.
Yeah.
I personally, and like you said, the NFL has had a tendency of penalizing the wrong issues and letting the other issues slide. I mean, Josh Gordon smoked weed and got suspended for a year. Calvin Ridley bet on football, got suspended for a year. Kareem Hunt assaulted a woman in a hotel lobby and got like 6 games. So
there's like
I mean,
one instance in NFL history of someone actually like facing justice and doing their time and coming back, and that was Mike Vick. And he did what, like 2 or 3 years in federal prison, and then ended up making a comeback. Like,
right.
Obviously, the crimes he committed were egregious, but the man served his time and actually made a comeback. I don't think Deshaun Watson is ever actually going to serve his time, because if he did, he wouldn't come out. He would never leave jail.
Right. And quite frankly, what they've said, Joe Miller and I said this, if you're innocent, you don't pay people off. Like that's that's just the fact of the matter. You don't pay people off. You don't sit there and you're basically incriminating yourself by settling any situation. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, we both know Deshaun Watson is an absolute scumbag. He'll always be a scumbag. And the fact that it continues to happen is just a misrepresentation of the NFL, because there's so many good people in the NFL. Guys like Josh Allen, guys like Stephon Diggs, a lot of the guys, which I think is why Buffalo Bills are so beloved, is their roster is built upon people that have good hearts. Not always, but for the most part, it's been like that for at least a number of years since Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott took over.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on. The NFL.com, they did a poll. A bunch of analysts and Bills fans, or polled by a bunch of analysts, and Bills fans were the unanimous fan base that they all believe deserve to win the next championship. Thoughts on that? And is there another fan base, do you think, that also deserves that accolade, or deserves that same lament, where they should be, the next in line?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty. I'm kind of biased here. I was born in Western New York, so I've lived my entire life as a Bills fan. I grew up during the drought era watching absolute studs like J.P. Lossman and Rob Johnson hurl the football. So we finally have a team that is not only like, potentially could bring us a Super Bowl, but a team that is favored to do so. Mm-hmm. I never saw this in the Bills throughout my entire life. I know you did, and you watched the Four Falls. And I had to.
I was young. I was only at that point when we were going through the Super Bowl run. I was like 2, 3, 4, and 5.
You were a young guy, but there's still plenty of people who, there's still plenty of Bills fans that are older than you and had to experience that. And if we can finally bring a championship to Buffalo, I mean, I was at a bar when the Bills made the playoffs for the first time in 18 years, and that floor buckled under the weight of everybody losing their mind in the bar. I personally think Buffalo will burn to the ground if they win a Super Bowl. And, no one would be surprised. In terms of other teams that kind of deserve it, up until about 2 months ago, I would say the Browns. The Browns fans deserve it. I don't think the organization does this. Like, Browns fans are in the same boat as Bills fans. They're in the same boat as Lions fans, all coincidentally all around Lake Erie. There must be something in the water, because by God, are they supporting teams that have just been consistently garbage for the last 30 years? But like Browns fans, Lions fans, they deserve it. To the organizations, not necessarily.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Lions are actually a good fan base, and for the most part, a good organization. I think the only thing they've really, I don't know if it's a scar. I think it's just bad management, is the fact that they were never able to put anybody around Calvin Johnson or Barry Sanders. And I don't think that's
Matt Stafford.
Right. And I don't know if that's necessarily like a black eye. I think it's just like, they had Matt Millen as a GM. I mean, what can you do? But I think the fans deserve it. And like you said, I think the Browns prior to Jimmy Haslam taking over, I think that they absolutely deserve it, and the fans still do. I think that's the thing that you have to look at, as the fans, have been through a lot. Uh, I would say if the Jets were there, if their fans were the absolute worst, I would say they deserve it. But
If they weren't just an insufferable group of people, then yes, I'd say they deserved it.
yeah, I can't. And there's a couple people like this guy Happy, a Jets fan that I think he's a good guy, but I I just can't. Most of them think that the Jets are gonna like be right on the edge of the playoffs. They have a good roster, but you're talking. I mean, that the turnaround would be huge. It's the same thing as people are talking about like Tua, and the fact that they think year 3 Tua is going to be like year 3 Josh Allen, which is just mind blowing to me.
They're just playing the 2008 Bills game, man, where Bills fans every year are just like, "Yep, Trent Edwards is quarterback. We got this."
Right. And that's the cyclical feeling. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple good fan bases, I think, that have been through. Like, I think the Bears fans,
they deserve it.
An absolute tumultuous. I mean, granted, they've won championships before, but they've been through a tough time. I think there's a few, but there's not that many anymore that truly deserve it.
Well, I'd say
I think the Bills are definitely.
Yeah, I'd say any underperforming franchise. I mean, pretty much every fan base in underperforming franchises, they've got moxie, they've got guts, they've got a belief in their team that is unwarranted. Look at
Right.
I mean, another case of garbage ownership with decent fans, Washington Commanders. Some fans are kind of iffy, but like, again, it's an organization that has been underperforming for decades, and you just feel for those fans, man. Same thing in like hockey. Like, you talk to any Sabres fan, oh my God. I'm starting to get back into the Sabres because the Bills are good, and I can only support one garbage team at a time.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there is, I think they were right in saying Bills Mafia is probably the number one fan base in terms of deserving, because we've been through some tumultuous times. But yeah, there's a few others, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's get right into tonight's topic. Before we do that, I am going to do a live read real quick for one of our sponsors, and that is a Dentist for Kids. A Dentist for Kids offers individual dental treatment for kids of all ages by providing relaxed, fun, and encouraging environment. Dr. Zach's goal is to help your child build confidence in their smile with their overall dental health. A Dentist for Kids is currently accepting new patients, and they participate with most major insurances. If you visit Dr. Zach, mention Buffalo Late Night for $25 off a custom whitening kit or an electric toothbrush. Call today to set up an appointment with Dr. Zach and his team. My cousin, he's amazing. Truly do it. 585-538-7230. He is truly, and I know I do these live reads. Zach is the best. If you have kids, absolutely get him to see Zach. He, not only if you look him up on Google and look at his ratings, he is genuinely that good, but he's a good person. He treats, his practice like it's his own child, and he does wonders. So check him out.
So Tommy, I chipped a tooth today. Is there any chance that he'll take a 24-year-old adult man-child as a new patient?
We'll see what we can come up with. That being said, let's get into tonight's topic: what it means to be a Bills fan. Now, if you're watching, feel free to jump on the YouTube channel and go ahead and comment. We'd love to have it be just more than Ian and I flapping our gums for the next 38 minutes. But if not, we will manage. I do it every day inside of my mail truck, and I talk to myself, God willing. So we will do what we can. So first thoughts, Ian, on the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh, I mean, that's a pretty vague question. If you're talking about the Bills this year, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Bills this year. Very, very talented team. A lot of great acquisitions as well, and homegrown players have been doing really, really well. If you're talking about the Bills as an overall franchise, a little disappointing with some high spots. If you're talking about the community around the Bills, my God, are they rabid? If for anyone who's watching right now, if you've never been to a Bills tailgate, it's got to be on the bucket list, man. You're going to see some things that you're never going to unsee. But I'm like I said, man, I mean, I grew up as a Bills fan. I got to watched them during the drought era and still held firm in terms of my belief towards the team. And it's all kind of paying off now.
Yeah, that's the one thing, in terms of the Buffalo Bills. They right now are different. It's been a long process. As a 34-year-old, I've seen from the point in which the team was good in the 90s.
Yep.
Now I was young, but when I was capable, let's say 7, 8, 9 years old, when I kind of started remembering, understanding, and kind of having something that, or have a palatable relationship with it. That's when I kind of started to realize how bad this team could get. And it did. It just kept getting worse and worse. And the thing about it is you sit there and you watch and hope and pray. And every year the draft comes around and you think, okay, here we go again. Let's hope for the best and see what comes of the draft and see what players we get, whether it's EJ Manuel or Trent Edwards or JP Lossman, or you bring in Todd Collins, guys like Tyrod Taylor, Kyle Orton, you can journeyman quarterbacks or whatnot. And, the one thing that's going on this year is that, or in the past number of years, in the past 5 years, since 2017, when, Sean McDermott came around and Brandon Beane came around, is there's been a dedication to commitment, a commitment to success, a commitment to consistency. And that's something that's different. If you look at what's happening before, when Buddy and Nix left and Doug Whaley took over, Buddy Nix made a promise that he would leave a quarterback here when he left. And he did, and he put EJ Manuel in place, but it wasn't for the betterment of the franchise. It was just to put that feather in his cap and ride off into the sunset and hope to God that it worked. And it didn't, because the franchise just didn't believe enough and didn't stick behind EJ Manuel. But that's what you're seeing right now. Is you're seeing a franchise that's committed to the success and the continuity, and you're seeing what's going on with Josh. And there's a internal belief, not only in Josh, but in the team as a whole. The one thing that I've noticed with the Bills is everybody roots each other on with their little accomplishments. When Isaiah McKenzie has a big game, they root him on. When Devin Singletary has a nice run, they root him on. When you have Dane Jackson come in and he plays in a great game, the team builds him up. That's something that goes a long way, whether it's somebody that's on practice squad or all the way up through, to the main roster. Josh wanted Davis Webb to stay just because of his relationship. There's a very intrinsic and palpable relationship inside that building. And that's something that's very different from years past. And that started from the base all the way to the top and back down. So it's very, very different than what we've seen in the past. And I think that if you look at what could be coming in the future, everything's built. I mean, it's kind of like when you're a kid and you're playing with, those little colored blocks, and you try to build them up, but they always fall down. Well, the big thing is you build a sturdy base. It's going to be a lot harder to knock it down. And that's what they've done in this Bills franchise. They've gone out of their way to really do it the right way. Brandon Beane, when he came in, he fixed the entire salary cap. He went out and he brought in some core building blocks, whether it was Deion Dawkins or Matt Milano or Tre'Davious White the year before, and then going ahead and getting Josh Allen. They've built it so that they've got sustainable pieces, and they haven't overspent on their salary cap. They haven't gone and done what other GMs in Bills history have done, where they spend way too much money, spend way too much money on players and kind of get their salary cap upside down. They've made intentional moves. And they've said, hey, listen, if, let's say there's a guy that's a free agent, this is what we're willing to spend. If you want more than that, test the free agent market. We'll still be here, but if it doesn't work, then, best of luck to you. We'll find somebody else. And they just keep grooming from inside. They draft well, and that's another part of the commitment to success. It's very much a well-oiled machine, as you would ever look at anything. I think the Bills are one of the most well-manufactured and well-run franchises that you'll see. And I think if they win a Super Bowl, it's going to solidify them even more so
Oh
as
yeah.
a franchise that is lauded for being this good. And they're already at this point, um, they're very much a franchise that people are looking at saying, okay, this is how we're going to do things. This is how they do it. This is how we're going to do it. We want to build it just like the Bills because the Bills have been successful.
Well, I mean, looking at historically the Bills' biggest rival, the biggest issue that the Belichick Patriots ever ran into is that Bill made one good draft. Well, he made a couple good draft picks, but the one that everybody knows is number 199 in the 6th round. It's like he stumbled across Tom Brady, and it turns out Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever to play the game. Obviously, you had guys like Wes Welker and Julian Edelman in there, but Bill historically did not draft well. His biggest thing was that he could kind of make a team out of nothing, but when it's truly nothing, it's a lot harder to do it than when you have, great pieces like Julian Edelman, like Wes Welker, like Tom Brady. You're not really seeing that with this Bills team. They have consistently drafted very, very well every year. I mean, you had Josh Allen, you had Trey. Was Trey White a draft pick or was he brought in?
Tre'Davious White?
Yeah.
He was the first pick when Sean McDermott took over. He was picked. We traded out of the 10th pick with KC. So KC took Patrick Mahomes with number 10, and we traded back to 27.
And then we ended up getting, okay. Like I said, they've drafted incredibly well, and they're consistently building on the weaknesses from the year previous. When Bill had that rough season right after Tom Brady left, he said, listen, man, I sold out for the last 18 years to bring 6 championships to this franchise. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of selling out with the Bills because we haven't ran into any salary cap issues. We've had fantastic trades that we've made. We've had a lot of great homegrown talent, talking about guys like Dawson Knox and Gabe Davis and the rest of a very talented receiving core. And even in the running backs, you got Devin Singletary, who, while he's more of a scheme fit than anything, has been incredibly productive the last couple of years. That's not even getting started on the defense, which, outside of the last game that the Bills played, were an absolute stalwart the entire season. And actually, I mean, based off of the draft that we did 2 weeks ago, it's very, very easy to see that the Bills have had a consistently great defense and a rather poor offense. We kind of fixed that with the last 4 years.
Right. And that's at the end of the day, when you look at it, like you were saying with the Patriots, a good quarterback or an elite quarterback, like Josh Allen, like Tom Brady, like Aaron Rodgers. Right. Those quarterbacks can absolutely be Band-Aids for the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
And that was the problem with the Patriots is, quite frankly, Belichick is not that great at drafting. He's had good drafts. Last year's draft was actually significantly better than previous years or in whole, in totality, how Belichick has done. He actually, between Christian Barmore, I can't even list all of the guys that they've done really, really well in the past draft and a year ago, excuse me. But outside of that, Tom Brady was able to really disguise how bad that roster or how bad the franchise truly was because Tom Brady was carrying them. And you saw at the end that Tom Brady didn't want to stay because for years and years, he never had talent. They never put good weapons. I mean, they had Gronkowski because they drafted Gronkowski and they drafted Edelman and they signed Wes Welker, but they didn't have a multitude of talent. They had pieces here and there, but they were not going to be perennial all-stars. And now that Tom Brady's in Tampa and maybe his arm's just a little less strong, now he's got big weapons, and he can make that offense explode with having a bunch of really talented receivers and, a couple decent running backs. Leonard Fournette was really good in their Super Bowl run, but all that said and done.
Yeah.
You're seeing how the way the Bills have done it, even if they lose somebody, they can still be successful. Like when Trey White went down last year, you had Levi Wallace step up, you had Dane Jackson step up,
Teron Johnson, yeah.
Right. And that's stuff that you don't necessarily see in other franchises where if one of the starters goes down, the Bills have depth. And that's the thing you're going to see come training camp. There's going to be guys that are going to be cut from this roster that it's going to stun people. I mean, there's going to be people from this roster that people are going to be mad that they were cut, and those people are going to get scooped up fast, and they're going to be starters on other teams. And it's not going to be surprising because there's so much talent from 51 to or from 1 to 53. And that's just how it is. And that's absolutely by design. The Brandon Beane has done an unbelievable job. That's why Joe Shane got a job in New York. That's why Brian Dable got a job in New York, because they built it the right way. The roster is thick. The coaching staff is incredibly talented. And it's just, like I've said, it's by design. They keep building this roster so that they can churn out and keep going. And if they lose somebody, they don't miss a step. And that's an important piece.
Well, it's all about the culture that McDermott kind of instilled into them. I mean, they are absolute dogs. They work, they grind. And like you said, there's going to be so much work for those starting positions that when someone does eventually get cut and people get mad, they will get scooped up. I think that the Bills are in a spot when it comes to depth that, like, I don't want to say injuries don't matter, but injuries aren't as big of a factor as they are for other teams. And we don't really have to punt on a season if somebody major gets injured. We're Super Bowl contenders for a reason.
Right. Well, I mean, the only person that is your season's punted is if Josh goes down.
Allen. Yeah, if Josh Allen goes down.
Well, I would say there's a couple. I would say if Stephon Diggs goes down, you could be in trouble. I think if Deion Dawkins goes down, you could be in trouble. And I don't know if the Bills could sustain another full season. Like if Tre'Davious White goes down for more than what he did last year, I think he'd be in a lot of trouble.
Like you said, man, I mean, elite quarterbacks are able to mask and put Band-Aids on those injured parts of the offense or cover for the lack of defense. And that like you said, it comes down to homegrown culture and homegrown culture. It comes down to the absolute crazy amount of talent on the roster. I was looking at an article from a couple of years ago today from SB Nation. I just bring that up on the screen, where if Josh Allen succeeds, the Bills will have outsmarted basically all regular humans in the entirety of math itself.
Yeah.
That is the beginning of the Beane and McDermott era, where they were just bringing in fantastic talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have to think, not to say that that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott may have not gotten more time, but had Josh Allen not worked out, who knows how long they would have had as a leash. Now, with Josh Allen being what he is, you have to think that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott probably are going to retire here and will walk out whenever they choose, especially if they win a Super Bowl. But correct. Yeah. I mean, Josh Allen is, and I was actually having a conversation with somebody else about this. Josh Allen is an anomaly. He's a unicorn. He is truly going to be one of these case studies that you look at from years down the line where, he's drafted and he doesn't fit the mold of how things are supposed to work. Nope. Like you don't see a completion percentage go up by 10 points from one off season, from one off season to the next. Like it's not common. But Josh Allen is not common. Josh Allen is not only a freak of nature athletically, but he is one of those people that wants to excel at everything. I mean, you saw him when he was going into the match with Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. He was doing everything. He was prepping and trying to be the best he could be at golf. Everything that Josh Allen wants to succeed at, he probably will, because he's driven more than anybody, driven more than most people. So it's, that the Bills are going to look like geniuses, but it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen is absolutely behind all of that. No matter, I don't, not to say that I think any franchise that took him, he'd be successful, but Josh Allen drives his own ship. And I feel like no matter where he went, he was going to do whatever it took to make sure that he was successful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it does help that I'm trying to remember who exactly he went and saw, but there was a essentially trainer that he went to go see to essentially have the way he threw the football digitally scanned to find a way to make it more efficient and make it. I don't know the exact details of it, but in the offseason, he went to some quarterback guru who essentially takes digital 3D scans of your throwing motion and helps correct that through training. That absolutely helped. I mean, Josh was on Pat Mac's show and brought that up as the first thing that really changed him. Also, like you said, the dude's probably gonna be good at literally anything he does. He's one of those people that is just good at everything, and you kind of hate him, but he's so nice, and he's our quarterback, so we love him.
Right. Okay. So moving on. What's your favorite Bills game? Do you have a Bills game that sticks out in your memory? One that you kind of go back to that has always kind of resonated with you? And if you need time, I can go right ahead.
I mean, I've got a couple. The one that's going to stick out in everybody's mind from the past season is watching the Bills dismantle the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
It is just, everybody was just reveling in it. It was fantastic to watch. Outside of that, it was a Bills Patriot. I think it was a Bills Steelers late season game. I was actually coming back from a deployment to Afghanistan. We were watching it in the terminal in Germany, and I was surrounded by Steelers fans. I want to say it was like 2019, but watching the Bills win and a lot of upset Steelers fans also kind of brought joy to my heart.
All right. Yeah, there's quite a few very, very impactful Bills games. The two that I always think of, one is the 6-3 Bills Browns game. And the reason I bring that up is if you look at that and then you look at, the game against the Chiefs last year, or the game against the Patriots last year, or 2 years ago against the Seahawks after Josh's grandmother passed away. Just the difference between futility and undeniable success that this franchise has now. Because, there were so many games back in the day that it was incredibly tough to watch as a Bills fan. And now you have it on the other side. And I think the one for me is the one against the Seahawks right after Josh's grandmother passed away, because it just, not only did it show how Buffalo's community surrounded itself around Josh's family after, his grandmother passed away, but just seeing Josh excel and carry that entire franchise on his back when he was at his weakest was like the most unreal thing that you could see. Because, both of us, we lost our grandmother, obviously, and it was incredibly difficult. I can't imagine being in Josh's position, and I can't even believe or understand leading an NFL team the way he did after a grandmother or a grandparent passed away. It was wild to watch. It was absolutely humbling, to say the least. And Josh Allen's one of those guys that, like, every time you think he's going to blow you away, he's blown you away. He's going to do it again. He's going to do it in spades.
Oh yeah.
So those are games that I always appreciate. The other one that I always go back to is the 2011 Bills Patriots game when we beat Tom Brady with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then Ryan Lindell kicked a field goal with 3 seconds left in the game. That game was, that game and the Patriots game this past season, man, the feeling, the electricity. I've used palpable a couple of times tonight, which is more than I've used it probably recently. I'll tell you, it's wild. And if you haven't been to a Bills game and you're listening, there's not many of you, but it's fine. But if you haven't been to a Bills game, I highly suggest it, and try to be there for like the home opener or playoff games or division matchups, because, man, the electricity, the feels, you can literally feel it in the air, and it's something that's desired.
I mean, Tommy and I, for what, we were wrestling fans growing up and still go to the occasional show, but the only way that I can describe, there's magical moments that happen in the Ralph, and they can only be described as having the same like environment as like the early 2000s and like the late 90s in like the WWF. It's just, there was an electricity in the air that you can't really describe. And you kind of got that. Another game that came to mind while you were explaining your two was that 2018, breaking the streak. Won again. Oh shoot, who did we? I forget who we won against, but then
We beat the Dolphins and the Bengals beat the Ravens.
Beat the Ravens. Yeah. The entire NFL outside of the Ravens were rooting for the Bills at that point. Not only the entire NFL, but pretty much every fan base outside of the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Pats. It's like, just give it to them. They need it. And like I said, there was a bar floor that was completely destroyed by the amount of energy and electricity that carried through the fan base nationwide, really.
Right. So going aside from that, do you have a favorite Bills player?
Rob Johnson. No. Shoot, man, that's a hard one. The easy answer would be Josh Allen, but there's a lot of people that I grew up watching during the drought era that I was just enamored by. Guys like Fred Jackson, guys like Lee Evans,
Good choice.
Aaron Schobel, Takeo Spikes, London Fletcher, fantastic players during those rough times that even though they were playing on a garbage team, were still, putting work in every single day. And then, I mean, when I was really, really young, you had guys like Eric Moulds and Peerless Price who, the Bills' passing attack in the early 2000s was actually pretty staunch, with Drew Bledsoe at the helm or Doug Flutie. Watching those older games is always kind of a treat. And then on the defensive side, you guys, like I said, Takeo Spikes, London Fletcher, Troy Vincent, and Nate Clements. All players that I grew up watching that, like I said, played on a garbage team, but played their heart out every single day.
Right. Yeah. And there was so many good players. It's easy to love Josh Allen now. And, probably when I get to, my later years in life, I'm going to look back and just be so enamored by the years that Josh was here. Yeah, right. Nostalgic about it. And, Josh is a young kid now, and he's, about 10 years younger than me. And it's exciting to have such a guy that not only is he fantastic, but he's easy to root for, because he's a good person. You can tell he comes from a quality family, and he does it right. And, he works his tail off for the community, which is great. I always loved guys like Eric Moulds. Fred Jackson was another one that I thought was impressive.
Kyle Williams.
Right. Yeah. Those guys that you're right through the drought. Stevie Johnson was a good one, even though he was a little more, he was a kind of a goofball when he was playing, did things that were different. He would have been perfect in today's NFL with all the different touchdown celebrations that he did that weren't allowed back then. But
big fan of Plaxico Burress.
Right. I just think that overall, there's been a lot of great stories of a lot of great players over the years. And I think looking back, I'm probably going to love Josh Allen more than all of them, just because of the fact that he's literally pulled us out of the depths of hell into from mediocrity to being, this year, the Super Bowl favorites, which is still baffling to me. Like in a world where, I've got I got a brain in my head, and I can think normal thoughts, and it sounds really goofy for me to say, but I can tie my shoes and walk down the street, but thinking about the Bills being favorites in Super Bowl just turns me into jello, and I'm incapable of a normal thought. Or that Von Miller's on this team. Those two things just don't really coexist with me having rational thought. So
no, I agree entirely. We were talking about before the show what makes a Bills fan, and one of the biggest things that makes a Bills fan is crippling anxiety regarding your team's status. During the drought years, we had more than one season where we started 4-0, 5-0, and then lost 9 straight. So even though it's been several seasons of continued success, there's still a part of me that says, when is this house of cards going to come crumbling down?
Oh, yeah.
It's like you said, man, it's baffling to think that a team that hasn't seen the Super Bowl in well over 2 decades, almost 25 years at this point, is the favorite. Actually, no, over 25 years. My God. I just don't know what to think about it.
Yeah. It'll be when it happens. It's going to be something. I don't know. We're going to move on to that in a second, but I'm going to do a quick second read. Travis Matthews' innovative fabrics keep you looking and feeling your best. Whether you're on the golf course or strolling through town, offering supreme comfort for every aspect of your life. With clothing that's quick drying, wrinkle resistant, and super soft, you can move seamlessly from work to play. By the way, this is Travis Matthew right here. I love it. I wear golfing all the time. It's amazing.
Very nice stuff.
Thank you. Get 20% off your first order at travismatthew.com. You'll find the link right on Buffalo Late Night social media pages. Click on that. When you click on it, it'll actually give you a chance to type in your email. That'll enter you to their Travis Matthew Rewards. Not only will you get that 20% off that I told you for going through Buffalo Late Night's page, but also you get free shipping on all your orders. Not just over $10, all your orders. So absolutely order their stuff. It's fantastic. I wear it all the time. I actually have one of their hats right here. I was kind of deciding as to which one I was going to wear or not. I love their stuff. It's super good, super comfortable, goes with everything. That being said, let's continue.
Well, and I was just gonna jump in right quick before we got to the next topic. So for Buffalo Late Night, we're distributed to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. Obviously, if you want to interact with the show, you can retweet us or tweet at us on Twitter, talk in the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch comments. But we are also publishing every single episode of the podcast after it goes live on YouTube, so you can rewatch it, or if you miss it, you can watch it. If you want to listen to it on your way to work, we are distributed through pretty much every major audio platform. So if you want to watch or listen through Spotify or Pandora, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, which is part of Apple Music, we've got you covered pretty much everywhere. So go ahead, give it a listen.
Yeah, and you can check out all the other past episodes as well. If you go on YouTube, if you go on Twitch, you can see the previous episodes and bring those up. Same thing with on Spotify. You can bring up all the episodes all the way back to the very first one. So
absolutely.
That being said, thoughts on your feelings if and when the Bills win the Super Bowl?
It's one of those things where it's like I've never. Is this what it feels like to have success? Like I don't know what I would think. Like obviously, there's teams I rooted for in the Super Bowl that weren't the Bills. Like I really liked when the Seahawks were in the Super Bowls. It was always a super fun team to watch. Same thing with like the mid 2010s Broncos, but they weren't my team.
Right.
I suppose it would be similar to when we, broke the drought, except multiplied multiple times. Like I said, man, the city of Buffalo, when it does happen, if it does happen, that it's going to be like when the Eagles or when Philadelphia had to grease all of their light poles to make sure people didn't climb up them. I pray that they have extra funding put into the rebuilding of infrastructure in the city of Buffalo prior to the Bills winning, because my God, it's going to be a party.
Yeah, I mean, you can look back and when the Bills lost the Super Bowl after they played the Giants and Norwood missed the kick, the video of the amount of fans that came down to City Hall just to support the team and support Scott Norwood, and that wasn't even a win. Yeah, no. So the idea, and like I'm not from Buffalo, but I'm from Rochester, and like I kind of feel like even though I'm not from Buffalo, like I love Buffalo. I love the city of Buffalo. I've been there many times, obviously, and I feel like like it's part of me, and so I know I'll be there. If they do the parade and whatever, or when they do the parade, but it's one of those things that you're right. It's hard to put into words. It's kind of like, when people asked me before I got married what my thoughts were, and I've seen wedding videos, just like I've seen Super Bowl parades and, celebrations, but I've never, that prior to me getting married, obviously, had never encountered that feeling. So it was hard for me to put it into words and really express my true understanding. So it's hard to say, but I can only imagine that it's
almost cathartic.
Yeah, I feel like last year's Chiefs game, after we scored when Gabe Davis scored his fourth touchdown and we went ahead with 13 seconds left, I was beyond myself, losing my mind. And I can imagine that's probably the feeling I'm going to have if and when the Bills win the Super Bowl. It'll be even worse than that. So it's exciting. It's an exciting thought. It's an exciting time to have even the ability to have this conversation, because for the longest time it was just like, can we make the playoffs? Will this team have a winning record? Will this quarterback succeed? Now you're talking
5-11 again next year.
Right. Now you're talking about a team that has potentially the best quarterback in the league, potentially the best defense in the league, one of the best wide receiver cores in the league. Like, it's just, there's so many good things about this franchise. So it's weird to have these conversations, but it's a privilege and an exciting time. So,
it's a breath of fresh air, obviously.
Right. So finally, the last thing I'm going to ask you is, finally, if you could tell people who have never experienced what it is like to be a Bills fan in synopsis, in totality, what would you say? What's your explanation of being a Bills fan? What does it mean to you to be a Bills fan? Give me it all.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start it off with a quick preface. They say that the city of Philadelphia is the city of Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love?
That's right.
I don't believe that's correct, because they like to throw batteries at players on the field. I'm going to go ahead and just bestow that title upon Buffalo with whatever power I can. Because if you talk about a wholesome community that really kind of it comes together during tragedy, during hard times, I can't think of another city that does it as well as Buffalo does.
Buffalo is called the city of good neighbors.
All right. Well, hey, man. I didn't know it, and I said it anyway. Buffalo, as a fan, there's a healthy level of anxiety because you're waiting for everything to come crashing down. There's a level of jaded salt. There's a good level of the ability to laugh at yourself. Because for years, the Bills had just gotten off like a 3-13 season. It's like, how do you think they're going to do next year? Super Bowl every time. I think that the Bills and Western New York has the best pizza and wings in the country. So I think that it's just a culture that's based around having a good time. Their tailgates like unlike any other. It is not this corporatized bull crap that a lot of other teams have had happen to their fan bases. I mean, if you want to look at like the NBA, take a look at like Lakers and Knicks fans. Who is always courtside at the Lakers games? It's Jack Nicholson. Guess what? Jack Nicholson is also worth hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, able to afford those seats. With the Bills, it's a very blue collar crowd that comes in to support their team. And you've got a lot of bandwagon fans coming in, as you do with any team that faces success. Look at the early 2010 Seahawks, look at the Golden State Warriors. But I don't think either of those teams really had the amount of heartache and struggle that the Bills did. And I think that that heartache and those struggles kind of built the character that is Bills fans. And there's just a healthy level of character that goes along with those other things that I mentioned.
So I agree wholeheartedly. And being, like I said, a 34-year-old, I wish Joe Miller was here so he could sit there and age me and tell me what he knows. But
back during Gettysburg when the Bills were 0-6, yeah.
Being a Bills fan is not only is it a birthright, but it's an honor and a privilege. And it really is, because, I love looking at the logo and thinking like all the history that comes along with it and all that's been there. And, you're right. Part of getting here now is where we've been before, because at the end of the day, and I'm a Yankees fan, but like my Yankees fandom is not even close to my Buffalo Bills fandom. It's not even relative. And I think part of that is that the Yankees have just won a ton of championships. So there's no heartache. There's no longing. There's no like dire wishes of, I want this to happen. Whereas as a Bills fan, you've been through years and years of gut punches and terrible mishaps, and Stevie Johnson dropped passes, and Tom Brady destroying your franchise, and bad quarterback after bad quarterback. And now finally, after all of that, it's like you're coming to and coming out of a coma and realizing, oh my God, there's this unbelievable franchise, and not only are they getting a new stadium, but they've got this amazing young quarterback and this dynamic coaching staff in front office. And, as a Bills fan, I've sat in the stadium when we've played Jacksonville when it was 30 degrees and sleeting rain. And, maybe they'd get 15 points on the day and it was just miserable to watch. I've seen both sides of the coin where the Bills have been really good and really bad. And I've also had those days where, you thought the Bills were going to be good. When the Bills started in 2011, 3-0, everybody was like Super Bowl or bust, man. Here we come. And then the Bills just imploded. And that was usual. That's what you expected. Like you said, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Bills gonna Bills.
Yeah. And it was just one of those things that you kind of got used to. Now, when the Bills play and they're down, I fully and wholeheartedly expect Josh Allen to lead them back and win the game. And that's not something that took a long time to get to that point, because quite frankly, anytime the Bills were playing prior to Josh Allen, if there was a lead, I was anticipating them losing it. It's very, very different now to have a team that you have so much faith and belief in, and no matter what move they make, you say, there's a reason, and it's a good reason, and chances are it might work out, or it's going to work out. So it's, being a Bills fan, like I said, and part of the reason I do this podcast is because I love talking about the Buffalo Bills. Whatever happens with this podcast, I don't care. If I never make a dime off this podcast, I'm okay with it, because for me, this was a chance for me on a Monday night, not only with my brother, but friends and media members and whatnot, to be able to talk and shoot the shit about the Buffalo Bills, a team that I am absolutely infatuated with and love more than anything outside of my wife. I hope she's not watching. But no, I hope she's watching. Actually, I hope she is watching. Why wouldn't she?
That's right.
That being said, it's exciting to talk about the Bills. It's exciting to have a franchise that you love so deeply. I hope people have passions as much as, I do about the Buffalo Bills, because it's exciting to be in have something that you have an endearing feeling towards. And I do. And a lot of Bills fans do. We love this team more than a lot of people love a lot of things, because we've been through the worst of the worst, and now we're getting taken to the best of the best. So it's exciting to be a Bills fan, and it's been a long road, and we're here now. So the number one thing I would say is enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Enjoy where we are. Every single game.
Special.
Yeah, right. Every single game, enjoy it, because when Josh is gone, who knows what's going to happen after that? When Josh's career is over, who knows what's going to happen after that? Not every franchise goes from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. It's very unlikely. We went from Jim Kelly to garbage for a long time. So enjoy the moment. Enjoy what's going on with Josh. It's magical. It's exciting. We've got a lot of talent, a lot of young guys that bust their ass out there for this franchise. So very, very excited as to what's coming. This year is going to be very, very exciting. Training camp starts in 13 days, which is super exciting. Get to see the young guns. The rookies come in 6 days, which is super exciting. Guys like James Cook is going to be coming in, and Kaiir Elam. It's exciting. It's very, very exciting. I keep saying exciting a lot, but I am.
I mean, we're all excited, man. You get to see the further development of young talent that we have. I mean, Josh is already taking that step. It's going to be interesting to see if Dawson can also take that next step, and if Gabe Davis is going to continue to be performing at such a high level. Because if they do, hey, we've got a fantastic second and third option when it comes to passing plays.
Right.
And I'm just excited. Like you said, you use the word a lot of times, but it's the only word that I can muster to talk about the feeling that I have right now.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be a good year. I think there's a lot a lot to look forward to, and it's a strong team. So, but hey, got through all that. I know it's kind of up and down about what the Bills are like and what they mean to us, and it's fun to be a Bills fan. And like Ian said, if you want to check out other episodes we've had, you can go back in the catalog and check and see what other stuff we've had. We've had great people, from Greg Tomset to Joe Miller to Aaron Quinn to Sal Mariana and Tim Graham, Justice Miller. I'm missing
Super
people. Hansel. We've had great people, including my brother here. We've had great
Kevin
people
Mazar.
so far. Yeah, right. We've had great people so far, and exciting times ahead, and exciting to see where this goes. But it's all about the Buffalo Bills, and we'll see what happens this season. So, as for my brother Ian, I am Thomas DeLaws. You can find me at the Thomas DeLaws. Ian, where can people find you on Twitter?
I'm not super I'm not super active on Twitter, but if you want to go on, find 35 Fox. That's my the word 3, the word 5, the word Fox. That is my Twitter handle. And I'm just gonna make a quick statement. Can you imagine trying to do this podcast in like the Chan Gailey or the Rex Ryan eras?
No, it'd be terrible.
It'd be awful. And it's fantastic. We have Josh Allen. Like I said, go Bills.
Especially with a 4-megapixel camera. But yes, absolutely. Appreciate you guys all watching. This has been Buffalo Late Night. And go Bills.
Go Bills. And let's go ahead and call it there. Sorry, guys. I wasn't prepared. Y'all have a good one.
The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say you will. Shout it right